In western St. Croix County, Wisconsin, lies the town of Kinnickinnick. Very near the Kinnickinnick Town Hall is where the Kinnickinnick Church is located. This charming 150-year-old gem has been lovingly preserved by a dedicated group known as the Kinnickinnick Historical Association. The church was built in the classic Greek Revival style for approximately $2,000 in 1868, shortly after the American Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant was President of the United States at the time. The church was shared by the Methodist and the Congregationalists for service on alternate Sundays. As the Methodist numbers declined, the Congregationalists bought the building in 1895 and used it for their church until 1951. The church stood empty for nearly 11 years. On rare occasion, vagrants were recorded living inside and had to be removed. The congregation found a buyer that planned to convert the building into a house. Concerned about the pioneer-era church, some 50 concerned citizens assembled at the Kinnickinnick Town Hall to oppose the sale. They wanted the vacant church preserved as a historical monument, and in 1962, the Kinnickinnick Historical Association was formed. After meetings and negotiations with the Congregationalist church officials, KHA bought the little church for $600. There have been many wonderful people who have given their time, talent, and treasure to help preserve this wonderful church. In rural America, often the distance between farmsteads was measured in miles. Local churches served as gathering places where people would meet on Sundays for education, spiritual growth, and fellowship.
It's been a long time, you know. My oldest memory? Oh, I suppose my mother played the organ, and we had to have a minister in the afternoon because they were hard to get. And Mother was up playing the organ, and of course I was sitting in the pew, and when the sermon came on, I skipped out. The thing is, our vacation Bible school that we had, and all the neighborhood children, we lived 3 miles from the church. We walked to the church and we walked back. And it was by the Baptist students that came down and taught us. I mean, we got a good education, very good. Oh, that's what I still got my plaque. I won for the learning most verses that week. So it's in my bedroom. I was going to bring that out. And, I remember of Sunday school, the church had one round oak inside the church with all the pipes running through it, and then it had another round oak out in the entryway. And that's where we had Sunday school. And Bill Fuller would come on Sunday mornings and start the fires to warm the church up some. But we still had to sit around that stove in the entryway with our coats on for Sunday school. It was a church, and the only church, otherwise we wouldn't have ever gone to church. We couldn't have gone into town. I can always remember, I always had respect for that pastor sitting up there in that big chair in the pulpit. And I can still see that. And the pews they were hard to sit in. I remember that. It's nice to go out there for the ice cream social and see them enjoying it.
Then we at Bible school, we had teachers were from the Baptist Church in St. Paul. And we walked 2 miles to go to the classes. So then we would go back home again afterwards. But we didn't mind it. We were always running around anyway. And on the north side of the church, they had the building for horses. Of course, they were open to the south. so the horses could just drive right in, you know. So, but that was before my time. But I remember the buildings being there. So, but we had church in the afternoon. I know one Sunday the minister was from Hammond. It was Easter Sunday, and he came and had dinner with us that day before the church service. But I remembered his name, but now it slipped me. So, but I thought that was kind of neat. It's the pump organ. They called it Verna's organ. That was my mother. She played by ear and also by note, but she could really play that organ. So they called it Verna's organ.
My fondest memory is my mom and dad always getting us ready on Sunday morning and taking us to church and Sunday school, and that was their social life. And because there was no other social life at that time, back in the 30s and 40s, and I remember going to Bible school or Sunday school, and my mom and dad would give us either a penny or two or a nickel because they didn't really have a whole lot of money. I think it's very important for our next generation to know what we did when we were kids and growing up, and I think it's very historical, and I sure hope the young kids will keep it going after we're gone, because it's just a beautiful memory for Kinnickinnick and anybody around there. And the ice cream social brings a lot of people yet, and they get involved and they have a fun time conversing with each other, and I think it's very, very important that we keep it for the next generation. Well, I think that we've done a great job, and these ladies here have done a great job of keeping the ice cream social going, and that's our fundraiser, and we've done a lot with the church and keeping it up, and I hope that our young kids can follow in our footsteps and keep the church going, because it's a very historical society, and I'd like to see it continue.
I love things old, and there is a connection. My great-grandparents were those fancy summer residents that came out from Minneapolis in probably, well, they built my house in 1900, and they were Congregationalists, so when they were here in the summertime, they would come to the Kinnickinnick Church. And I guess the history is that my grandparents donated the pump organ and the pulpit and some of the hymnals, and they would be the 1910 hymnals. You know, it makes me feel connected to this community, that my great-grandparents went to the church. And I love things old. I love maintaining it. So in 2002, I took over the job as treasurer from Shirley Kurtz. And that summer, I started organizing the ice cream social with May Sumner. She and I shared the job, and she would take it for 3 weeks and call everyone she knew. And then when she was done, I would take the list.
I think my first memory of the church was my dad, John Thurston, who lived in Eau Claire, invited me to go to one of the ice cream socials. So I think that was like 1995. And so we had a very nice time. The next year, I went back by myself because my dad couldn't come at the time. And I was sitting there, and I noticed that the people needed some help. So I actually went into the church, and I said, would you like me to help? And they were very happy to have me carrying out the trays of, it was cake at that time, to the table. And Shirley Kurtz said, have you ever thought about coming to one of our meetings? Well, I hadn't, but I started going. That was how I got involved. And there were a number of things that happened between 1999 and 2001. We had 2 outhouses that were behind the church that were really dilapidated. They no longer worked. So the Phillips came and took those out, Bob Phillips and Dorothy. We put in a memorial garden in the front of the church. There were a lot of repairs. At that time, the bell tower was about ready to crash through. We had somebody from, I believe, New Richmond come and fix that. We had the exterior painted, the interior painted. And then we also were fortunate enough to be able to get the church on the national and state registers of historic places in 2001. And that necessitated a trip to Madison. My dad and I went there, and we had to have black and white slides. It was very involved. and presented it to them, and they accepted us. So that was kind of the involvement. I always love old buildings. Local history is kind of a passion of mine, but I think I like the people even more than the church. And that's what got me interested. You know, these people are no longer here. The Griffeys, the Kurtzes, the Phillips, Marion Christensen, May Sumner, Lois Hall, Polly Weimer, you know, all these people, the Linders used to live next door and take care of the church. And now we are kind of at the point where we need new people coming to help. You know, I became involved in 98. Mary became involved in 2002. And had it not been really for Mary stepping up and helping with her sister too, Ellen Ryder, we would be in a very bad place right now. So I'd like to see that continue, and hopefully people will see the significance. It is a landmark. It is on the National Register of Historic Places. It's very worthy of being preserved, and honestly, it's not that much work to become involved with. We have, 2 meetings a year. We're looking for help with the ice cream social, more leadership roles to try to, you know, give Mary a little bit of a break and take over with that. So we hope more people become involved.
It is essential that buildings such as these be preserved for future generations so that they may better understand themselves.